and I'll just say we're at the at page 258. Go ahead, Marion. Thank you.
Oh, begin with 34.
Correct.
Okay. Tawhid, or the unitary state of God, a reference to page 159. The principle involving Tawhid, or the unitary state of God, is indisputable. It is the basic foundation of all known religions and the goal of spiritual discipline in both Sufism and Vedanta. To accept Tawhid in theory is the privilege of the masses, but to indulge in research thereof is the specialty of the select few. It is both easy and difficult. Tawhid is seemingly so easy that it is talked about universally on pulpit and platform, and yet it is so difficult of achievement that the best of efforts therein yield nothing but stupefaction and bewilderment. The unity of God, in its transcendent aspect, is the Tawhid Tanzihi, absolute oneness of Sufism, and the Advaita of Vedanta. The problem of Tawhid presents multifarious aspects, as is exemplified by the old story of several blind people examining an elephant. Each touched a different part of the creature and formed a different opinion. Individual approach to the subject is relatively quite true and unchangeable. And yet the elephant as a whole is something quite different and understandable for the blind.
So that's unchallengeable and ununderstandable.
Oh, I read it differently?
Yeah.
Oh, so I should read individual approach?
Correct.
Individual approach to the subject is relatively quite true and unchallengeable. And yet the elephant as a whole is something quite different and ununderstandable for the blind. The following are a few utterances of eminent Sufis concerning Tawhid and the aspects thereof which appeal to them. Asterisk. The apparent contradictions in the words of Sufis are merely due to limitations of the means to express the experienced truths and to describe the realized truth in different contexts, under different circumstances, and from different points of view that always go together in a single experience or realization as a whole. Meher Baba says that such worldly differences do not contradict. Oh, I'm sorry. Boy, I'm not what's going on here. Meher Baba says that such wordy differences do not contradict, but complement the expressions of experienced and realized truths which underlie such contradictions. Explanations in this respect, such as have already been given in preceding pages, should therefore be always borne in mind. Viz, as an example.
So that comment continues here.
Oh, with page 193.
Mm-hmm.
The approach to truth is individual. And so in the matter of details, much depends upon one's spiritual tendency, physical aptitude, and external circumstances. Page 198. 1,000 seekers may be enjoying as many experiences, yet the path of gnosis is only one. Page 207. In spite of the different aspects of the experiences of the experience, all the aspects are experienced together at the same time. Page 228. On the one hand, more details confuse one more, and less details explain things less. This gives rise to a variety of terms and expressions for use from different viewpoints and in different contexts. In the absence of actual experience, descriptions of the same one thing often sound contradictory. But in the light of relative experiences, or the final realization of truth, these very contradictions prove to be really complementary expressions about the same one truth.
Then we go back to the beginning of the top of the page to continue the text.
Tawhid is that reality in which the impressions, nukush, are wiped out, and knowledge appears, and God remains as immaculate and pure as he was before. It's from the Junayyad of Baghdad. Tawhid is the knowledge of God, and this knowledge enables the Gnostic to differentiate between the original, Qadim, and the contingent, Hadas, being. The transcendent state of Tawhid involves the denial of Tawhid, and that source is the Junayyad of Baghdad. Tawhid is the effacement of the lover in the attributes of the beloved. That is from Jahangir Samnani. Tawhid has two aspects. One is the state, and the other is the description of it. The descriptive aspect of Tawhid belongs to the worldly mission of the prophets, and the state thereof involves the infinite and boundless ocean. The descriptive aspect depends on the instrumentality of speech, sight, hearing, and cognition, and all of these require separate confirmation. To confirm on the basis of extraneous proofs is to suggest duality. And Tawhid is free of all tinge of duality. Faith in a man walks through the crowded thoroughfare of duality, and this stage cannot altogether be dispensed with. Descriptive Tawhid is like a lamp, while Tawhid in itself and by itself is the sun. When the sun appears, the light of the lamp vanishes into nothingness. Descriptive Tawhid is changeable, while the state of Tawhid is immutable and eternal. The words uttered by the tongue are overruled by the heart. When one on the spiritual journey occupies the station of the heart, the tongue becomes defunct and mute. Later on, the heart too is overridden by the spirit, Jnan. And at this stage, the wayfarer talks to him. This talk is not in relation to the essence, but in relation to its attribute. The attribute changes and not the essence. Ayin. The sun warms up the water, whereby the attribute is changed, but not the water. Thus, the very attempt to affirm Tawhid is to deteriorate the pristine purity of Tawhid. In parens, asbat, u Tawhid, fasidun fit Tawhid. Tawhid veils for the Unitarian, Mawahid, the beauty of absolute oneness. Jamale Ahadiyat. Tawhid on that account is suspect because you desire it from yourself.
Thanks, Marian. Ernie.
One who writes about Tawhid is a mulhid, rationalist. One who points towards it is a dualist. One who infers it is an idolater. One who talks about it is irresponsible. One who is silent about it is ignorant. One who thinks he has realized it is self-deluded. One who imagines its nearness is distant from it. One who weighs it with intellect and forms ideas thereof is indulging in make-believe. And the one who finds it without seeking is the lost one. Abu Bakr Shabli. Tawhid is spoken of in relation to absolutism. Tansi is to qualify it, and to refer to it as qualified, tashbeh, is to make it limited and finite. To equilibrate the two extremes is, however, perfect and just what is desirable. Eugene Ibn Arabi. Tawhid is essentially forgetfulness of Tawhid. Those returning to normal consciousness must needs have some work on the material plane. Hence, Tawhid may be likened to a creditor that can never be adequately and fully paid off in light. Kudantul Kubra. Tawhid, the Unitarian stage of God, therefore admits of no language, as in that transcendent state, there is none to whom to address oneself. The Sufis have classified Tawhid into 5 main categories, in keeping with or connoting the different stages of man's spiritual unfoldment. They are known as 1, Tawhid Aqwali, the verbal unity of God. 2, Tawhid Afa'ali, the active unity of God. 3, Tawhid Ashwali, the feeling unity of God. 4, Tawhid Safati, unity of God in attributes. 5, Tawhid Zati, unity of God in essence. 1, Tawhid Aqwali belongs to the majority of mankind who believe in any one prophet, avatar, and have faith in his message. At this stage, mere verbal acceptance of God or the unity of God, and the performance of duties pertaining thereto, enjoined by the lawgiver, are considered enough as a preparation for the forthcoming stages of spiritual life. This is also known as Tawhid-e-Shariat. 2. Tawhid-e-Afa'ali concerns those who have actually been initiated into the path. The expression of the unity of God with such initiates of the subtle sphere, Alam-e-Malakut, simulates intrinsically the life of the pure souls, the angels. At this stage, the spiritual conviction engendered within is that behind everything, good or bad, is the motivating power of God. 3. Tawhid-e-Awali dawns on those advanced souls of the fifth plane in the mental sphere. At this stage, the soul finds itself invested with direct radiation of divinity and consciously or unconsciously gives immense help to others in the subtle and gross spheres. 4. Tawhid-e-Sifati belongs to the sixth plane in the same sphere, mental. All the aspects of materiality, from the gross and subtlety from the subtle planes, still clinging to the soul, are completely removed and dissolved, like the luster of stars getting dissipated before the sun. Both 3 and 4 Tawhid belong to the same mental sphere, Alam-e-Jabrut, and all the 3, 2, 3, and 4 are also collectively known as Tawhid-e-Tarakat. 5. Tawhid-e-Zati is God realization in the fifth real sphere of Hakikat, which includes the different stages or aspects of the Marifat-e-Hakikat, example, Halat-e-Muhammadi in the stage of Lahut, and Hakikat-e-Muhammadi in the stage of Hahut, of the sphere of reality. The Sufis are unanimous on the point that amongst the various aspects inherent in the realization of Tawhid-e-Zati, the most perfect one is the accentuation of the difference of ubudiyat, servantship, between man and God. This spiritual fact the church has misconstrued and misapplied, and adducing that man is man and God is God, and that man can never become God, nor can God ever devolve into man. The truth underlying the situation, however, is that after the realization of Tawhid-e-Zati, the emphasis on ubudiyat, servantship, connotes the third journey of the Saliks, called Sir-e-Ma'ala, the return to normal consciousness with God. The varying stages and aspects of Tawhid, as discussed above, are given below in tabular form. Stages. Tawhid-e-Aqwali. Aspects. Waqif, which is gross consciousness. Spheres. Alam-e-Nasut, which is the first sphere. Stages. Tawhid-e Alpha Ali, aspects, Wasif, praiser, spheres, Alami Malakut, second sphere, stage, Tahid-e Hawali, aspects, Arif, knower, sphere, Alami Jabrut, third sphere, stage, Tahid-e Safati, aspect, Ashik, lover, sphere, Alami Jabrut, third sphere, stage, Tahid-e Zati, aspects, one, Ashik o Mashuk, lover and beloved in one, sphere, Alam e Lahut, two, aspect, two, Ashik, lover, and Masuk, beloved, simultaneously, sphere, two, Alam e Ahut, fifth sphere.
Thanks, Ernie. I'll take a turn now. Wujudia and Shahudia. Amongst the various types of Unitarians, brackets al-e-tawhid, the most important and controversial are the two schools of thought known as Wujudia and Shahudia. Muhyiddin ibn Arabi is the greatest advocate of the Wujudia school, upholding Wadat ul Wujud, parentheses, unity of existence, which in Vedanta is Advaitism, upheld by its greatest exponent, Sankaracharya. According to Ghazur-e-Ilahi, Ibn Arabi held that existence, wujud, is not more than one and is the very same, is manifest to itself by itself, like water which is manifest to itself in the form of ice by way of limitation. When in the state of phauna, the limitation, the form, disappears. The absolute remains and becomes who, parentheses, he. Sheikh Shahabuddin Surawardi, one of the chief sponsors of the Shuhudia school, characterizing its philosophy as Wadat ul Shuhud, parentheses, apparentism. The Vishishtadvaita of Vedanta maintains that in Phana, Banda, parentheses, the limited, becomes Ka'anahu, who, parentheses, like him, and not who, parentheses, he. As iron in the fire, which becomes like fire, but not fire itself. The reality of iron being quite different from that of fire. The Shahudiyas define two different existences, Zat, and two distinct things in view, iron and fire. The iron becomes fire temporarily, and then iron is iron and fire is fire. Mirza John Janan says that the relationship between the unmanifest aspect of God and the manifest aspect of God is that which exists between the ocean, the waves, and the bubbles. And this multiplicity does not in any way affect or interfere with the oneness of reality. This is Wadat ul Wujud, identityism. In contrast with this, the other position, determining the relationship between God and the created, as that of the original and its shadow, or the sun and its rays, is Wadat ul Shuhud, apparentism. Wadat ul Wujud of Muhyiddin ibn Arabi is from the heights of the Hadiyat, conscious unity. And the gnosis pertaining to this stage is, therefore, Hama Ust, everything is He. Wadat ul Shuhud of Sheikh Shahabuddin Surawardi, also known as Mujadid, is from the same heights of reality, Hakikat, but the gnosis expressed is Hama Az Ust, parentheses, everything is from Him. The two doctrines and the resultant controversies are a later development at the beginning of the present Dawar-e-Kalandari, parentheses, cycle of mastery, and so did not arise during the lifetime of the Arabian prophet. The doctrine of the Wujudiyas is based on experience plus reason, and the Shahudiyas base it on experience and the Quranic aspects of common interest. Ibn Arabi denies transcendence and immanence, which imply duality. He maintains that God is one, and it is He alone who exists. All else that appear to exist are His manifestations or tajalliyat. Marian, could you continue, please?
Mona's on. Is she reading or not?
No, she's not. Yeah.
Okay. Hence, God is identical with sifat, attributes, and all divine names are identical with the named, which is Allah. The saints who belong to the Wujudiya school of thought have their eyes on the oneness of existence, Wahid ul Wujud, the first Tajalli manifestation of God from the stage of Ahadiyat, and therefore the later devolutions, viz. Mental, subtle, and gross worlds, are like a shadow, zeal, which is nothing, and as such constitutes an adumbration on Zat, divine essence. The shadow, zeal, however, owes its existence to and is dependent upon God, who is infinite and eternal. Thus, the shadow also is, in the sense that the Wujudiyas look upon everything as God, even the shadows, mental, subtle, and gross worlds, which have no independent existence. The Shahudiyas, as said before, hold two zats, the one of reality and the other of non-reality, the one of God and the other of Banda. The Zat of Banda is zero, Adum. And this Adum, nothingness, is relational, Izafi, and is not real, Hakiki. If nothing, Adum, is to be considered as an essence, reality, then there will be two Zats, which results in dualism. The Adum Izafi is only relatively an Adum, nothing. It is mere zero. If any number of zeros are added to a zero, the value of the number does not change. Thus, Adum is therefore a symbol in the knowledge of God. Since perfection appertains to Zat, God is perfection itself. Imperfection relates to Adum, and hence evil, in quotes, is the manifestation of Adum, non-existent existence. The Mujadid only reaffirmed and re-emphasized the doctrine of Wadatul Shuhud, apparentism, originally founded by Abdul Karim al-Jili, the author of Al-Insan ul-Kamil. The spiritual fact, however, is that Wujudiya philosophy is of a loftier kind and admits of no considerations of convenience or compromise. The gnosis of Meher Baba is equally applicable to both these approaches to truth, and in order to follow it as given in the, quote, 10 states of God, unquote, some familiarity with the Sufi way of delineating the tanazulat, the devolutions of the absolute, through successive stages of manifestations known as Kamsa Wajudat, five existences of the Sufi world, would be of help to the seeker. The gnosis of all perfect Sufis implies that God in the beyond state, is knowable and undefinable.
Did you say unknowable? That's what it is.
Unknowable and undefinable.
Thanks.
In comprehending this state of God, Wara ul Wara, which is beyond, the wings of thought and imagination are paralyzed. In the beyond state, the absolute God, paren wujud-i mutlaq, is. The Sufis have described this transcendent state of God in many ways, such as Gaib ul Gaib, the hidden of the hidden, Majul and not, the unknowable and the undefinable. It is in this state that there is no knowledge of itself for Zat. Unkata ul Izarat, the state in relation to which all indications are dropped. Al-Hama, the dark mist, which implies a state of latent potentiality of God in relation to its inward aspect of beyond the beyond, and in its outward aspect of ahadiyat, meaning conscious oneness, in which Zat is aware of its transcendent unity. Meher Baba explains that although God from the beyond state, conscious oneness, cannot return to the beyond state, he knows that he was and is infinite existence, infinite knowledge, and infinite bliss, and from that knows that his original state was the beyond state, Zat al-Bat. However, with a view to making the subject intelligible to the seekers, the Sufis have treated the divine theme in terms of devolutions or manifestations of 5 different types. Thus, Kamsa Wajudat are 5 kinds of existence. 1. Wahidul Wujud, paren unitary existence, is the first manifestation, or Tajalli e Aval, in the Alame Lahut of the real sphere, and comprises the stage of Ahadiyat, conscious oneness. 2, Ariful Wujud, knowing existence, is the stage associated with Hakikate Muhammadi, reality of Muhammad, or Nuri Muhammadi, light of Muhammad, the stage of Hahut in the sphere of reality. And there's a paren after light of Muhammad. And the paren is Hakikat-e Muhammadi, God's original word realized. Nuri Muhammadi, God's original word expressed. Hakikat-i Muhammadi includes Nur-e Muhammadi, but Nur-e Muhammadi does not, just raise the asterisk, but Nur-e Muhammadi does not include Hakikat-i Muhammadi. This is the stage of Wadiyat, conscious of Wahidiyat, paren, conscious oneness, conscious of oneness in manyness, close paren. It is the second manifestation, the Tajalli-i Dovom. 3. Mumtanul Wujud, negative existence, is the third stage of manifestation, Tajalli-i Sevom. This is Alami Jabrut, the mental sphere, at which point the stage of Wahidiyat, oneness in manyness, begins. 4. Mumkanul Wujud, possible existence, amongst other things comprises the world of angels and spirits, and is known as Alami Malakut, the subtle sphere, which is the sphere of energy. This represents Tajalli-i Chak Harom, the fourth stage of manifestation. 5. Wajibul Wuhud, necessary existence, comprises everything relating to gross existence. It is known to the Sufis as Alame Nazut, the gross sphere. The fifth aspect of manifestation, the Tajalli-i Panjom.
Thanks, Marianne. Bernie.
These represent the 5 devolutions of God from the beyond state, known as Tajalliyat-i Kamsa, parens 5 manifestations, or Kamsa Wujudat, parens 5 existences. Now we shall treat each one of them in the ascending series, beginning with Wajib ul Wajud, parens necessary existence, and ending with Wahid ul Wujud, parens unitary existence. In the domain of Shariat, parens law, Wajib ul Wujud, parens necessary existence, means to the theologian the absolute God from whom all grades of existence derive their being. The Sufis, on the other hand, use the term to denote everything that is gross and material. Here, Wujud means body, since the evolving soul in stone, vegetable, and animal and human form cannot be said to evolve without the gross mediums composed of 5 elements. This gross existence in the stage of Wajib ul Wujud is a great boon conferred by God, as without it, the achievement of the stages of perfection, sainthood, and leadership would be unthinkable. The gross body is a wonderful and unique mechanism which has in it all the other four relative and real existences, the subtle, mental, and sub-supramental, and God himself. Hence, the human body is called by the Sufis as Alam-e Sakir, parens, microcosm, which is the epitome of Alam-e Kabir, parens, macrocosm, which comprises all the five existences, the mystery of which no one can unravel without the help of the universal mind of a perfect master or the Savior. Wajib wujud, parens, necessary existence, or gross sphere, derives its existence from, or is the reflection of, mumkin ul wujud, parens, subtle sphere. The relationship between God and creation at this stage is that of the Lord and the slave. The evolving consciousness or mind of this stage is called nas-e amara, parens, evil self, and it has the natural tendency to enjoy anything that is gross. Here, the idea of God's relation to man is known as Tawhid-e Aqwali, parens, verbal unity of God, which acknowledges the existence of God orally. Mumkin ul wujud, parens, possible existence, or subtle sphere, derives this existence from mumkin ul wujud, parens, mental sphere. Herein, the relationship between God and his manifested attributes is of the sort that exists between father and children. Here, God is kind, merciful, and vigilant towards his children, who are carefree, with no thoughts of punishment or reward, no desire for knowledge, and no cravings for spiritual attainments. And such entities are commonly known as angels. The consciousness of this sphere, Alam-e Malakut, is styled as Nafs-e Lawami, parens, reproachful self. And the cognition of God at this stage is called Tawhid-e Afa'ali, parens, unity of action, which means the entities of this world are exclusively busy with their appointed task of remembering God. Mumkin ul wujud, parens, negative existence or mental sphere, contains the fifth and sixth planes of the path, which at this stage reaches wahudiyat, parens, oneness in manyness. Wahidiyat begins from the fifth and reaches its zenith in the sixth plane, and has explicit in it all the details of creation, comprising the subtle and the gross planes. This is the Alam-e Jabrut, which derives its existence from and is the reflection of Arif-u-Wujud, the stage of Hakikat-e Muhammadiyah. It is called Mumtan-ul-Wujud, or negative existence, for the simple reason that Mumtani means that which is non-existent, and Wujud means the form or body of existence. Thus, the word Mumtan-ul-Wujud signifies that the form is non-existent therein. This stage is akin to the seed, which contains within it the potential for the roots and the branches of the tree, which, when fully evolved and manifest, go to represent the subtle and the gross planes. The Sufis know this as la makan, in which all ideas of time and space converge to a point. The consciousness of the mental sphere is called by the Sufis Nashi Mut Manane, meaning beatified or satisfied self in the fifth plane, and Nashi Mohima, meaning inspired self in the sixth plane. Herein, the relationship between God and creation is that of beloved and the lover, and the idea of God in these stages is known to the Sufis as Tawhid-e Hawali, parens unity of feeling. This is a stage known as Hakikat-e Insani, parens reality of man, wherein man comes face to face with God, but has not yet shed his ego and is still in the domain of duality. Wahid ul Wujud, parens unitary existence. In the stage of Alam-e Lahut, of the sphere of reality, is the state in which God first became conscious of his Hadadiyat, parens conscious oneness, and Arif ul Wujud, in the stage of Alam-e Hahut, of the same sphere of reality, is the state of Wadiyat-e Wadiyat, parens conscious oneness of oneness in manyness, also called Hakikat-e Muhammadai. In the state of Wara ul Wara, God, according to the Sufis, was a hidden treasure and wanted to be known. No sooner did the hidden treasure express a desire to know itself than it became aware of itself as light, parens Nur, or Nur-e Muhammadai, which has implicit and latent in it the existence of all the creation and the manifest world. And it is in relation to this that Prophet Muhammad has said, God created my light first, and from my light the universe came into being. This is the aspect of Jamal, parens beauty, in the knowledge of God included in Tawhid-e Zati, parens unity of essence. Here, the relationship existing between God and the creation is that existing between the lover and the beloved. Here, the lover is God, and Muhammad is the beloved. God here possesses complete awareness of both himself and creation.
Thanks, Ernie. I'll take a turn. Wahid ul Wujud, unity of existence, is the first limitation of God in the beyond state, and is one of the stages of the fifth sphere known as Lahut. This is the stage of conscious absolutism, which, when used by the Arif ul Wujud, parentheses, knowing existence, gives him the experience of both Fana and Baka, This stage, like all other stages of the path, is beyond mind and intellect and cannot be encompassed in words, and includes Tajali Jamali, parentheses, epiphany of beauty, and Tajali Jalali, epiphany of beatitude. Tajali Jalali is that which confers on a soul the experience of fana, complete annihilation. And Tajali Jamali endows him once again with the consciousness of normality known to the Sufis as baka, or permanency. Tajali Jalali is also Ashkiyat, wherein God is the beloved and man is the lover. And Tajali Jamali is Mashukiyat, wherein God is the lover and man is the beloved. This latter is the highest spiritual manifestation, known as fakir or fakiri. Thus, in Alam-e Lahut and Alam-e Hahut of the fifth, the real sphere, are the stages of perfection in the respective aspects of Ashik o Mashuk, lover and the beloved in one, and Ashik, lover, and Mashuk, beloved, simultaneously. In Alam-e Jabrut, mental sphere, are the stages of Ashik, lover, and Arif, Gnostic. In Malakut, subtle sphere, is the stage of enumerator of attributes. And in Nasut, the gross sphere, is the stage of Wakif, gross conscious one. Describing these stages in the ascending order, when Wakif, the conscious one, becomes more conscious, he enters the stage of Wasif, attributes. And from Vasif, he arrives at the stage of Irfan, gnosis. And from Irfan, he reaches the domain of the mysteries of God, Ma'arif. From the stage of Ma'arif, he is presented with the sight of God, which confers upon him the status of lover. And when he ultimately becomes love, he finds that he himself was the end all and the be all of everything. In this stage of Huyat, everything is dissolved in the I am God state of God. Supplement 35, titled Maya, referring back to page 169. And the asterisk says, Mayor Baba, Maya, as quoted in In Quest of Truth by Irene Conybeare, I guess the publisher is Kakinada AP, India, Swami Satya Prakash Udasin, pages 274 and 275. That was a note from the editor. The force that keeps a man spiritually blind, deaf, etc., is his own ignorance, which is governed by the principle of cosmic ignorance, generally known as Maya. See also Meher Baba, Maya, Discourses, pages 370 to 387. Editor's note. To understand Maya is to understand the universe. All false values and false beliefs are due to the grip of Maya. Intellect, in particular, plays into the hands of Maya. For intellect is not capable of that consciousness which realizes that God is truth. Truth can only be known after one transcends the cosmic illusion, which appears as real owing to Maya. Maya, the principle of ignorance, can only be transcended when the spiritual aspirant is able to realize that Maya is God's shadow and as such is nothing. The enigma of Maya solves itself only after self-realization.